there's no censorship of Voice of America content. Voice of America makes its own decisions about what to put on the air. We make our decisions based on what we think our audiences need, want, desire. There's no U.S. government interference. There's no interference from any other government or any other organization. We make our own decisions about what to air based on what we think the audience needs and wants.
Now, there's also a number of allegations that say VOA is asking its reporters to shy away from political reporting. Are these allegations true?
No, they're not. I don't want to shy away from political reporting, especially in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian media is not a free media. Our audiences need to hear many voices, many opinions about what is going on in Ethiopia, what's going on between Ethiopia and its neighbors, what's going on as far as the rest of the world is concerned. And we have a responsibility to be able to deliver a lot of different news and information, including information about politics and what's going on in Ethiopia with the government. What I don't believe that we need to do is dedicate all of our programming to politics. The rest of our programming needs to address the needs of the Ethiopian people and our audience there. Our audience needs health information and news about health and news about technology in order to be able to try and better their lives and improve communication among themselves. There's a lot of technological breakthroughs that can be useful for our audiences. So we're not shying away from politics. We can't shy away from politics, but we can't make it the only thing that we do.
Can the Ethiopian government actually put pressure on VOA as an independent institution?
They can't. We don't broadcast from Ethiopian soil. We're not governed by Ethiopian laws as far as broadcasting is concerned. We're the Voice of America, and we're going to broadcast news and information that the Ethiopian audiences, as well as audiences everywhere else in the world that we broadcast, can use to make good decisions about how their lives can be bettered, or good decisions about their lives in order to get through till the next day, the next week, the next year.
The Ethiopian government criticizes VOA for biased reporting, and it has actually submitted a 42-page complaint. How will you respond?
VOA is going to respond to the Ethiopian government the way VOA responds to any criticism about its programming. We're going to look at it carefully. We're going to look at it neutrally. We've sent the complaints and the programs that are specified in the complaints to an independent outfit for translation and for analysis. We're going to look at that analysis and see what it has to say. What we want to do is make sure that our broadcasts, whether they're in Amharic, in Afan Oromo, in Tigrina, in Urdu, in Persian, whatever language that we do it in English, we want to make sure that we live up to our journalistic standards. And that's our only concern. And if our broadcasts live up to our journalistic standards, I'm ready and willing to defend everything that we do.
Now tell me how this works. You have a number of languages that you broadcast in, and you have one charter that everybody abides by and carries out. Now, in what ways do you see that the charter is executed, because you have a number of languages that are going throughout the world, and what are the mechanisms here that VOA checks?
VOA hires journalists who are fluent in the various different languages, and I depend on their judgment and their interpretation of what goes on the air, in order to, as well as their adherence to our standards. It's much like in an English language setting as well, where an executive, one chief executive, one executive editor cannot see or listen to 24 hours worth of programming or even 12 hours worth of programming. What's needed is trusted journalists who understand what's going on, understand what the standards are for the broadcasting organization, and they're also the eyes and the ears for the charter for whatever standards that they have. I have that here. I've got trusted journalists in all of the 44 languages, and their responsibility as journalists is to maintain the standards set out in the VOA charter.
And there were demonstrators outside the VOA head office yesterday. Mm-hmm. And do you feel in what VOA does and for any reason that they should be worried about what's going on at VOA?
I really don't know what their demonstrations are all about.
Did you hear their demands in the first
I did
place?
not hear their demands. I haven't received a letter or anything like that. If they want broadcasts that are balanced, give the people of Ethiopia reliable, accurate, comprehensive, balanced information for them to make decisions about their lives, then that's what VOA is going to be giving them.
What's your priority with regards to the diaspora and bringing information to the people of Ethiopia? We're talking about 80 million people here. How do you prioritize here in terms of programming?
Our target audience is in Ethiopia. That's where our audience is. That's what counts for Voice of America. Much as in any other language service here at Voice of America, the diaspora, whether they're here in the United States or elsewhere in the world, plays a role in what we broadcast. It's obvious that we're going to be talking to members of that diaspora in order to send various opinions back to the audience. We do that in many other language services, especially in language services where the media is not free. This happens in our Persian service. This happens in our Chinese service. This happens in our Korean service, where we talk to members of the diaspora because the government will not allow opposing or other kind of voices on the airwaves. So we will be talking to them. We will also be trying to talk to the governments to get their point of view. It's very important for our audience, wherever they are, to understand what its government is saying and put that up against what others are saying and let them make the decisions about what to believe. It's not for us to be able to say that. It's for our audience to hear multiple voices to make their own decisions.
Are you going to diminish the voice of the opposition in your streaming in terms of political reporting or other kinds of reporting?
I don't necessarily know what diminishing the voice of the opposition means. What we're going to do is make sure that we provide full service to our audience. We're not going to shy away from covering politics. We're going to try and represent the various different voices that are out there and when we do cover politics, try and represent the various different voices that are out there and let the audience make their decision. We're also going to provide some basic information for our audience to make it through the day. There's a famine going on, there's a drought going on. Our audience needs to know some of the latest and greatest technological breakthroughs. I was just reading on voanews.com today of a farmer who is developing a drip irrigation system. He started developing it when he visited Ethiopia. It looks like it's got a lot of promise. It's a for-profit, socially conscious corporation, but instead of wasting a whole lot of water to grow crops, he's developed a system where it's what they call drip irrigation. That's the kind of information our audiences need, not just in Ethiopia, but also in Somalia next door, in China, in Pakistan. and elsewhere in the world in order to grow crops, in order to feed themselves, and as well as try and make some money elsewhere to sell the crops. I want to deliver that kind of information and news to our audiences all around the world.
There has been media reports, the blogosphere has been talking about what they believe is going on at Voice of America, and I'd like to set the record straight here. The claim for censorship is because they say the BBG's visit to Ethiopia and also Africa was removed from the website, and they're saying this is information that's at the public's domain. It shouldn't have been removed in the first place. Why was that done?
Well, the report that was on the Voice of America website and was on the Voice of America contained inaccuracies about the visit. And those inaccuracies were to the point where they could not be corrected and have the story remain on the website. So we took it off the website. It's an extraordinary move by any journalistic organization to take a story off a website once it's been published. We did it because we could not fix that story. It had many inaccuracies about it. It mischaracterized the visit by the BBG. It mischaracterized what the Ethiopian government was saying to the three members of the Board of Governors. There is a characterization on the BBG website, www.bbg.gov, and on that website is a look at what the governors did in Ethiopia. What I can say about that meeting is that the governors from the BBG asked for the Horn of Africa service programs to be heard on FM stations. They asked for jamming to cease. They asked for more licenses for journalists to work in Ethiopia for Voice of America. The Ethiopian government presented a document that had 42 pages worth of complaints about VOA programming. We are reviewing that document and those complaints, and once we get our review back as far as translation and analysis by an independent group of people, we will not only let the Ethiopian government know what our review finds, we will make that public.
Now, are you talking about the story itself or the manner and the procedures in which the interview was conducted?
The story itself had inaccuracies.
Now, let me move on to the consequence of that story. David Arnold, who was the service chief of the Horn of Africa, has been reassigned to the English desk. Could you explain the decision-making process for that, and when will the Horn of Africa have a service chief so it resumes its regular duties?
Well, first of all, the Horn of Africa should be resuming its regular duties, and we have adequate management within the Africa Service to be able to continue our broadcasts and continue them at a high level of competence and a high level of journalistic excellence. I really don't want to comment about David Arnold's status. David Arnold is a valued member of the Voice of America. As a U.S. federal employee, he is accorded certain rights. We are looking into what happened as far as his involvement in both the inaccuracies that were in the story, as well as his involvement in the interview that was done. And once that review is over, we'll make a decision as to what David Arnold does next.
Finally, let's look into the future. What will change at Voice of America, especially the Horn of Africa service, in light of the complaints? And VOA is also trying to work with the Ethiopian government. And the Ethiopian government has actually said, and I quote the Minister of Communication Affairs, Barakat Simon, who said, until VOA changes the way it does business, we will not comment on the radio. So I wanted to get looking into the future of cooperation with the government and trying to do your work.
I'm not sure where cooperation with the government is going to go. Like I pointed out, the governors went there to try and convince the Ethiopian government to allow the Horn of Africa service to be on FM stations, to be on to stop the jamming of our shortwave signal, as well as to allow us more access to cover Ethiopia. Where that goes, I don't know. Where that goes once we review the complaints that the government has made, I don't know. I don't want to use the word cooperation because that connotes a sense that we're going to be changing what we do, and we're not going to change what we do. We're going to continue to cover politics. We're going to continue to cover agriculture. We're going to continue to cover health. We're going to continue to cover technology and women's issues and children's issues. And we're going to keep allowing or keep having the Horn of Africa service broadcasting and doing the kind of work that it has always done in being able to convey news and information to the Ethiopian people so that they can make good decisions about what to do with their lives.
Thank you for your time.
Sure.